Start 6 lines from the bottom on Yadalit Amid Aleph, 14a. If the pole, the crossbeam, the kaira, is a circle, then you imagine that it's square. And the point of that was because it has to be able to hold a brick. And if it's a circle, it can't hold a brick, but it's not a problem. You just imagine that it's square and it's going to be good. Okay, the Gemara says, Hasulamali, why do you have to tell this to me? I already said before that we do Rayan. Rayan means that you imagine that it's something else. The Gemara says, Seifet Strichale. Wants to tell me the end. But the end of the Mishnah, the last words of the Mishnah. It says, Kol sheish bekefe gimel tvachim yesh berechav tefach. Wants to tell me that anything that has a circumference of 3 tvachim has a diameter of a tefach. From where do we know this from? Rabbi Yochanan says we know from a pasuk in Malachim when Shlomo Melech made the Beis Hamikdash, so he also made there this like a reservoir of water. It's called a sea. He made it out of molten copper. Eser ba'amam nisvasei ad svasei. It was 10 amas from edge to edge. That means the inner walls from one side to the other was 10 amas across. Ogul saviv, it was a circle. Chamish ba'ama kamasei, and it was 5 amas high. B'kav shleishim ba'ama yosav saviv, and the string or a line of 30 amas could surround it from the outside. Okay, so what do we see? 10 amas from side to side gets surrounded by 30 amas. But what about the edge? What we're talking about here is that when you took the measurement of 10 amas across, that was inside the lip. When you did the measurement of the 30 amas, you were going outside the lip. So it's not exact, it's not precise. That 10 amas across is going to be 30 amas around because you're missing the edges, which could take up, let's say another tefach comes out, that it's actually longer. And it's still only 30 amas. Amar Rav Papa, svasa yisvas perach sheshen ksiv bei. The edge was so thin that it was like a petal of a flower. Ksiv vayvav tefach. It says that its thickness was a tefach. Svasa k'maisik kais perach sheshan. But its edge went up to be as thin as a flower petal, a lily or a rose. And it says alpayim bas yachal, and it contains 2,000 bas. We'll see in the next page what bas is. The Gemara says vikamashu. Okay, so it's very thin, but there still is something there. So the Gemara says ki chachashav mikavai chachashav. No, we're talking about that the measurement of the 30 was measured from the inside, so the circumference was in the inside of the lip, not on the outside of the lip. I saw in the Steinsaltz's commentary that the sages knew that you couldn't get the exact number of pi, so they made an estimation of 1 to 3. Anyways, they saw that you can't use a regular number to reach that. Okay.
Rabbi,
yeah.
I always thought that the place we found pi in the Tanakh was by Yonah, because it said when he went into the city, it was like he was one day, and then the next pasuk says Malach Shalosh Yamim or something like that. So I always saw the 1 and 3 and thought that referred to pi, but I guess that wasn't it.
This is the source. The source is from the Sea of Shlomo, Yam Shel Shlomo.
Okay.
This is the source for that. Because you have a clear pasuk that says that its diameter was 10 and its circumference was 30. So,
Okay.
Tanya.
Rabbi Ginsburg has a drush on his website about pi. It's about 30 pages long. It's not so small.
Yeah. I think he's a mathematician and a Kabbalist. So it's an interesting combination. Tanya was taught in a brayso. Tanya Reb Chia taught Yam Shas Shleima, the Sea of Shleima, Yamachzik Meya v'chamisha mikveh tara. It could hold 150 mikvahs. To figure out how much a mikveh is, and then we'll see how big it is. It says Michti, mikveh kamahavi. How big is a mikveh? A boim sa. It's a mikveh is 40 sa. So how many sa is in this if it's 150? 6,000. 6,000 sa. 40 times 150. Kedetanya. We'll start in a brayso. Brachatzos b'sarai b'mayim. We're on the top of 14b. Washes flesh in water. May mikvah. That means in water that's gathered together. Kol b'sarai. How much is kol b'sarai? What does it mean? All this flesh. Mayim shekol gufa eleben. That means water that his whole body can fit in. B'kamein. How much is that? Ama lama b'rim shalish amas. That's an amma by an amma with 3 amas high. So a person can sort of crouch down into 3 amas. How tall are we thinking an average person is? 4.5 feet. You can crouch into 4.5 feet.
Oh, crouch.
Right? If it's 18 inches. You can crouch down into 4.5 feet. It can fit into that. Bashir Chachamim, and the sages measure this out, that Mei Mikveh is our Boim Sa. They measured out that in 3 amas by an amma, that's 40 sa. You can fit 40 sa. So Kamala Havelu, how much do we have in those 10 amas across by 5 amas tall, which we said was 30 amas around? The Gemara is going to start out ignoring the fact that it's a circle. It's going to start off measuring it as if it's a square. That means that it's 10 by 5, 10 across, and 5 tall. And then we're going to cut off the corners. That's how we're going to start this. It says Chamish Meya Garmili. So 10 by 5 is 500 amas. So Letlas Meya is Meya. For 300 of those of the 500, you already have 100 mikvahs, because 3 by 1 is a mikvah. So 300 by 1 is 100 mikvahs. What about, so that's the first, that's the first 100 mikvahs. We said that there's 150 mikvahs here. Now it says L'meya v'chamishin. If you take another 150 amas here, you really have 200, because it's 300 plus 200 would be 500. But if you take another 150 of it, then that would be, you just divide it by 3, then chamishin. You would have 50 mikvahs. So the Gemara asks, Barba, Meya v'chamshin sagi. It's enough to have 450. What are you telling me that you have 500 amas here? You really only have 450. You really only need 500. You really only need 450 to have 150 mikvahs. 300 is the 100, and the extra 150 is the other 50 mikvahs. We started off saying that the Yam Shel Shleima, which is 10 amos across, 5 amos tall, has 150 mikvahs, and it contains, we said that it's 10 by 5, contains 500 square amos. So it turns out that you don't need that. You only need 450. The Gemara answers, "Hani milid biribua." Yeah, you're right. That would be correct if you had a square. The problem is it's not a square. It's not a square. It's a circle. Yam Shel Shleima Agol Haya, but the Sea of Solomon was a circle. So Michti, Kamar Meruba Yasel Eagle. So how much is a square larger than a circle? What we mean to say is how much is a circle less than a square? In other words, if you subtract the corners, off a circle, what are you left with? So we do it the other way. We say, how much is the square larger than a circle? Say Meruba, it's a Kamar Meruba Yasel Eagle. Revia, we say it's a quarter more. Let's see if he has a picture of this in this book. What he wants to show you from this. Just 1 second. Let's get this back. Just wants to show you here that when you have the circle inside the square, if you take off a corner from each side, that would be as if it's 1/4 of the square. As if you would divide this in each corner. If you divide this into 4, and then you take off 1 corner from each, so you would have 1/4 of the whole square. So you take off this, that means that you have a circle. The circle is the 1/4 of the square. He's showing you the mikveh. The size of a mikveh is 3 amos. Okay. So what happens when? I'm sorry.
You're again saying that pi is 3.
Yeah.
Here too.
1 second. What is that?
Because pi r squared, right? It would be the area of the circle, and usually it would be 2r times 2r, which is 4r.
I was born on March 14th, which is Pi Day, Albert Einstein. What's the question?
No, yeah, you're saying that I'm approximating pi to be 3.
Right. Right. So does it work out if you turn it a square? If you take the way we take a, what's the difference between the circle and the square? Would we say that it's more that it's a 1/4 difference? No. Yeah. The way they view it is that I have one. I'm sorry.
I think I know. A circle you won't get out of eventually. You won't get out. You'll keep going in a circle. Square you might get out of from a ledge, like from a corner. So you might hop out. Otherwise, you'll stay in the mikvah all day. Okay, I'm out. I gotta focus. Okay. Okay. You guys, I listen now. Okay. Bye.
The circle has a diameter. Let's say it's 1. So around it, the circumference would be 3. But in a square, how do I get the perimeter of the square? I do 1, 1, 1, 1. So it's 4. So that means that a square is 1/4 more than a circle. So, okay. So what does that leave us with? Revia. Now the Gemara says, okay, so la'arba meya, if we now take 400, we have 500 amas here that we could play with and see how many mikvahs we can get out of it. If we take 400 of the amas, we really don't have 500 because you have to take a quarter off that. We'll see how to take a quarter off 500. Let's start with 400. That's easy to take a quarter off. You're left with 300. La'arba meya, 400 amas is really only 100 mikvahs because 400 is really 300. It's meya. L'meya, if I have 100 left, so how much is 100 of square and converted to a circle? You have to take a quarter of, so you're left with 75. The Gemara doesn't spell this out for you. But what it means when it says l'meya over here, l'meya means 75 because you have to take a quarter of. So esrim v'chamisha, so you have 25. So how much is now? If you take a quarter off the 500, you're only left with 125 mikvahs, not 150. So hani may have esrim v'chamisha havelu on the first wide line. That's only 125. So Tani Rami Bar Yecheskel Yam Shas Shleima Shalish Amas Tachtenis Merubais Shtayim Milyonis Sekulas. You have to do some strange configuration. And what Dr. Stein is showing on his background is that the bottom of the Yam Shas Shleima was a square, and the top became a circle. So now we have to work this out. So the square, we know if it's the bottom 3 amas would be straight 100. The bottom 3 amas would be 10 by 3. 10 by 10 by 3, which would give us clearly 100 mikvahs. Now the top two amas, if it would be a square, then it would give me 200 amas. But let's take off a quarter of it because it's not a square, it's only a circle. What's a quarter? Remove a quarter of 200, you're left with 150. Well, 150 amas would give me 50 mikvahs, because the way I get a mikvah is I divide any number by 3, because a mikvah is 3 amas tall by 3 by 1. So 150 would give me 50 mikvahs. So that's what I'm left with. I needed 150 mikvahs for the Yam Shel Shleima. The bottom 3 amas give me 100, and the top 2 amas give me 50, because the top 2 is a circle. So you take the quarter off, the square leaves me 150. So let's see this inside. Tani Rami Bar Yecheskel Yam Shel Shleima Shalosh Amas Tachtenis Merubais. The lower 3 amas are square. That gives me 100. Shtayim Milyonis Agulas. And the 2 top ones is a circle. And it doesn't spell it out for you, but that's what it means to say, is that would give you 150. Gemara says, you can't do it the other way. You can't say that the bottom is a circle and the top is a square, because it says the edge of it in the pasuk. It says the edge of it was a circle. However, but how do you know that it's 2 amas on the top? Maybe it's 1 amma on the top. Gemara says, don't think like that. The ksiv, because it says in the pasuk, Alpayim bas yachel, that it contains 2,000 bas. What's a bas? See in a moment. Bas kamehi, havik. How much is a bas? Shalish sar. A bas, it's a measurement. A bas is 3 sa. Sa is 144 eggs. So this is 3 times that. 3 sa. Ksiv, how do you know that a bas is 3 sa? Ksiv, me eser habas minakur, meiser habas minakur. When you want to take meiser off a core is 30 sa. You take a bas. A bas is 3 sa. Meiser, 1/10 of 30 is 3. The havalu shita alfi grivi. What are we left with? If we have 2,000 bas, and each bas is 3 sa, so we have 6,000 sa. Okay. How many mikvahs are going to be in 6,000 sa? So you have to do 6,000 divided by 40 will give you 150. So it works out perfectly. It must be that the top 2 amas are circular, and that's how we have 150 mikvahs. Okay. The Gemara now asks a question. It says, "Baksiv, machzik bas batim shleisha salafim." We have another verse that says that it didn't contain 2,000 bas; it contained 3,000 bas. Okay, and we have a problem. Messes up our measurements. So the Gemara says, "Ahula good should know that's with the heat." In other words, if you put a dry measure into a container, you can get it to heat over, and then you get an extra third. It says like this. You can see from here that the gudsha, the heat, is a third more than the flat surface. So it's when you put in a liquid measure, you get a drop of surface tension. But if you put in a dry substance, then you can get it to heap over. You can get that heap could be a third more than the container. Utanan Nami was also taught in the Mishnah. Shida Tevo Migdal, if I have a big box, or a chest, a tower, Kaveras Hakash, Kaveras Hakanim, these types of hives, containers, very large containers that should not become tummy because they're so large that you don't move them. They're not considered a keli. Ubar Sfin Alexandros, this is a pit inside a boat that they use for fresh water, to hold the fresh water for drinking, inside a boat, this reservoir. Even though they have a bottom. So they are containers, but because they hold 40 sa liquid measure in liquid, but they hold 60 sa in dry, that's a kurayim. Each core we said was 30 sa. So 2 of them would be, a core is 30 sa, so kurayim is 2 core, 60 sa. That means the ratio of the liquid, which is 40, to the dry, which is 60, is 1/3 more. Okay. Yeah, someone wanted to say that when the sea split, so the bottom part of the sea, we didn't have to walk down into the seabed. The bottom part turned solid, so we were able to walk straight across. Then because of the curvature of the earth, so the top part of the sea would go up slightly. So when you walk straight across the sea, so the top part split and the bottom part turned solid. And that way we didn't have to go down at all. We didn't have to walk up. We didn't have to go down. We were able to walk straight to the other side. So how much split? What was the ratio? They said based on this Gemara that that it was 1/3 that actually split versus the 2/3 that were on the bottom. So it doesn't fit perfectly. This Gemara was the solid was 1/3. We wanted to learn from there that when we say shlish b'mitzvah, that you add 1/3 for hider mitzvah. You want to do a mitzvah better, it says 1/3. How do you know that? Zakeh livan veil. This is my God and I will beautify him. So where does it say 1/3? It doesn't tell you 1/3 anywhere. So he says, no, that 1/3 is the way the water split, because there's two verses. One says that the dry land, that the water turned to dry land. There's a contradiction there, how it works. So you have both of those options. It comes out that we're really the 2/3 to 1/3. So that's how you get the 1/3 for a mitzvah. Okay, now the Mishnah says, l'chayayin, the lechis. The lechis, which is the side post that you put on an alleyway, shamru, that they've spoken about, they need to be 10 tvachim tall, and the width and the thickness could be the smallest amount. Rabbi Yossi, we had him before. Rebbe. We said that Rebbe holds like him. He says that the thickness of the lechi needs to be 3 tvachim. So machlekes Tanakama and Rabbi Yossi, how thick the lechi needs to be. How wide? What are you telling me this plural? Lechis that you said. Who says that you need 2 lechis? You only need 1 lechi. Let's say that we now have a stam mishnah. You know the rule that if you have a machlekes in a mishnah, and then you have a mishnah that has a stama, that picks one opinion and cites it anonymously, that means that that's the halacha. Let's say that our mishnah is following the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenes, that he held that you need 2 lechis, 1 on each side, a post on each side. Gemara says, no, don't say that. My lechiyayin, what does it mean, posts? Lechiyayin da'alma. It's an expression the Gemara uses when it wants to say that when we're using a plural, it's not because we need the plural. We're talking about the general lechis. Any lechi that you put up, not because on one alleyway I need 2 lechis. In general, when you use a lechi, those lechis, when I use a lechi, those lechis are this is the measurement. You need to be 10 tvachim tall, whatever. Yachi. Okay, that's a very nice answer, but it's inconsistent. It doesn't fit with the previous Mishnah. Previous Mishnah said, 1 page back on Yud Gimel Amud Beis, HaKaira She'amru, doesn't say HaKairos. Kairanami Nisni Kairos, so my Kairos to Alma. Then let it say Kairos. And what do you tell me? Everyone holds you don't need 2 Kairos. This is too thin. We had an opinion. You had another one, but you don't need 2 Kairos. And it would mean that the general, when you put up a Kaira, those Kairos that you put up, would be talking about in general. So the Gemara says, it's not a problem. You can still figure this out. So by the Kaira, we didn't have a machlekes, how many Kairos you need. This is what it means. Those lechis that we just argued about, that everyone agrees is 10 tvachim tall. It's machlekes Rabbi Eliezer and Chacham, how many you need. So those lechis that we argued about, yes, we're talking about the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, and we're talking about the opinion of Chachamim as well. But we're not paskening on that it's specifically the opinion of Rebbe Eliezer. We're saying that those lechis that Rebbe Eliezer and the Chachamim argued over, where the Chachamim say you only need 1, so those need to be 10 tvachim tall. But the kaira was just a kaira. It's a way out of saying that it's a stam mishnah. The kama kolshu, how much is the thinness? We say it's kolshu means like there's no shear. It says, even the string of a coat. Okay, maybe it's like a string that ties up, like maybe they had a tie by the neck or something like that. Okay, Tana. Stored in a brisa, stored in a tesefta. If halfway down, let's get the picture up so we can see this. There's the chutas arbel. It's the tie, the coat. It's a little string. Okay, if he makes the lechi halfway in the alleyway, halfway down, instead of putting it at the edge. So, you only have half the mavi to use. What's this pshita? Okay, it's obvious. Maybe that you can only carry from within the lechi. So zalema yesh lechatzi mavi. No, the chiddush is that he does have the back of the mavi to use. I guess the einloi elachatzi mavi would be telling me that he doesn't have the front of the mavi. You say obviously there's no lechi there. He says no. The chiddush is that he even has the back of the mavi. So nami pshita. Well, that's obvious too. No, we could say that there's a gzeira. Say that, look, if you can carry in the back of the mavi, you may end up carrying in the front of the mavi. Ignore the lechi. Because you'll carry in the whole mavi. See, I'm carrying in the back. What's the real difference here? So, Kamash Malan, we see that now there's no gzeira. You're allowed to carry in the back of the mavi. You're not allowed to carry in the front of the mavi. Amar Rava. Rava says now, Asalecha l'mavi b'gvim anakar shleisha, shefliga menakesel shleisha le'asar le'klam. If I have a mavi and I place my lechi, like in this picture, 3 tefachim above the ground. It's not touching the ground. Giving me 2 pshatim here. What if fliga min ha'kaisel shleisha means? Either it's protruding it's away from the wall 3 tvachim, or it's away from between the walls 3 tvachim. He says these are 2 pshatim the Alter Rebbe brings for this. So it's 3 tvachim away from the wall. It's not attached to the wall. It's not close to the wall. It's 3 tvachim away. So either one of those pshatim. So it's nothing. What about Reb Shimon ben Gamliel who holds that lavud is 4 tvachim? That should be acceptable. That's only by a kaira. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel said that if I have a kaira that doesn't reach the end, a crossbeam goes across the top. It goes from one side to the other, but it doesn't reach it. It doesn't make it. So we said if it goes within 4 tvachim, it's counted. But we said if you had 2 beams that didn't meet in the center, if they were within 4 tvachim, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel held that was good enough. He says, yeah, that's only on the top. The bottom is a problem because 3 tvachim, that goat can get under it. So you're going to tell me it's a wall. You can only tell me it's a halachic wall if nothing would use it, if you don't walk through it. But here, the goats are going to go through it. You can't tell me that's a wall when it's clearly not a wall. This farm that we visited, they had a goat over there that could get through the place where they put the food in. He could get his way around. They named the goat Geometry. So it could get around. And they closed off all the areas, like they made it smaller. And then the goat died. Like they couldn't believe it. So that was its life, I guess, jumping through those holes. So here, a goat can get under the 3 tvachim, and so it's not considered even though usually 3 tvachim is lavud. Here it's more than 3 tvachim, If it's more than 3 tvachim, usually according to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, that should be lavud. If it's 4 tvachim, it's lavud according to him. Not yet. If it was within 3 tvachim, then it would work. Because you can never have anything mamish together. Never really be together under a microscope. So 3 tvachim is considered attached. Rabbi Yossi says that a lechi needs to be 3 tvachim wide. Amar Rav Yosef, Amar Rav Yudam Shmuel Alachak Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef, he says in the name of Rav Yehuda, in the name of Shmuel, that the halacha is not like Rav Yosef in 2 areas. Rav Yossi held that you're not allowed to make a brine on Shabbos, even a small amount, salt and water. You weren't allowed to mix that together. And that we had in Masechet Shabbos. And also the size of a lechi. He says in these 2 cases, Allah is not like Rav Yossi. Amalei Rav Huna bar Chinna behilmi amritlar. Rav Huna bar Chinna says, Rav Yosef, you taught us this, that Allah is not like Rav Yossi regarding Hilmi. You didn't tell us this other thing, that Allah is not like Rav Yossi. This is a new thing you're telling us. That Allah is not like Rav Yossi by the lechi. You never told us this. Now, the problem is that Rabbi Yosef forgot his learning. And the students would remind him what he said before. Now, usually it's Abaya that reminds Rabbi Yosef. Here it's Rav Huna bar Chinna. The Gemara says that Rabbi Yosef responds, What's the difference? The rabbis argue with him by Hilmi. So we said, Allah is not like Rabbi Yosef. We followed the majority. So here too, look, the rabbis are arguing with Rabbi Yossi regarding the size of a lechi. Doesn't need to be a board of 3 tvachim, or could it just be a post that's very thin? The rabbis argue. Say it could be a post that's very thin. So the Allah is not like Rabbi Yossi. Amalei, he says, no. Shani lechiyayim mishum dekay Rebbe kavasei. That's not a good proof. Rebbe paskins like Rabbi Yossi. We had that before. This is something we can't get away from. That the case where you have the 2 courtyards, the larger courtyard and the smaller courtyard, and the smaller courtyard opened up into the larger one, where we said that it was 1 amma larger, which was 3 tvachim on each side. We said that was the opinion of Rebbe that held, that followed Rabbi Yossi, that says that a lechi needs to be 3 tvachim. We needed 3 tvachim on each side. That's the way we explained it. So Rebbe holds a Rabbi Yossi. So how do you know that just because the rabbis argue that Allah is not like Rabbi Yossi, Rebbe paskins like Rabbi Yossi? Rav Rechumi Masni Hachi, Rav Rechumi had this statement slightly different, similar, but regarding something else. Am Rabbi Yehuda Breder Rav Shmuel bar Shelas, Shmei de Rabbein Alachak Rabbi Yossi, Loi behilmi v'loi b'lechiyayim. Says the name of Rav. Case before, the statement before was the name of Shmuel. Said Allah is not like Rabbi Yossi, not by Hilmi and not by Lechayim. Amalei Amrit? Did he say so? Amalei Hulai. Said no, he didn't say so. That means he retracted. Amarava Halikim Amra. That's like an oath. It says by God. He did say that. We learned that from him, which was in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, the name of Shmuel, or maybe just Rav. My timer, why did Rav Rechume not follow through with this and say that it's not so? He says that we don't pass him like Rabbi Yossi, and Rav Rechume switched it. He says Mishum de Rabbi Yossi Nimukayim. It's Rabbi Yossi. This is a famous statement about Rabbi Yossi, that he had the logic. He had the nimukayim. Rabbi Yossi was very logical. He had everything clarified and explained. So that's why we pass him like Rabbi Yossi, even against the majority. Amalei Rava bar Rav Chanan Abaye Hilchas Amai. What's the halacha? Do we go like Rabbi Yossi or not? I'm like, put chazim ayam at the bar. Go look and see what people do. The Gemara uses this to see what the halacha is, which is interesting. It says, go look around. How big is a lechi? How big is a lechi? So that's going to be a proof of what the halacha is. Yeah, some say that the Shulchan Aruch is just recording what the halacha was at the time of Rabbi Yosef Karo. Now, what do you mean what the halacha was? It means the way the community functioned. That's the way it was. That's the way it was accepted. So you could prove that sort of logic from Puk Chazim Mayam Debar. Look, this is how we do it. It's not 100% that's accurate, but it could be. So see how people outside are behaving. Some say it like this. In other words, you can never say everyone's making a mistake. I mean, everyone's making a mistake. It doesn't work like that. If everyone's doing it, that's the way it's done. So some say it about the following: that if someone drinks water because he's thirsty, that's a difference. If he's thirsty, then he has to say a bracha. If he's not thirsty, he's just drinking the water to swallow a pill or something. So then you don't have to recite a bracha. If he's thirsty, he says the bracha, Shakol miya b'dvarim. He says that everything is created with Hashem's word. That's a shahakol, the bracha of shahakol. Reb Tarfon says, Rashi brings that a pshat that Reb Tarfon is talking about an after bracha, but he says, nah, it can't be. Reb Tarfon's talking about the first bracha. The first bracha is a machlokes. Do you say a shahakal or do you say a bar nefashos before you drink water? So what should we do? Should we start off with the shahakal? Should we start off with the bar nefashos? Go see the way people do it. They say a shahakal first and they say a bar nefashos afterward. So that's the halacha is based on that. Okay. This is two versions of Rav Chanan telling Abaya, put chazim mayam at the bar. Rav bar Rav Chanan. Oh, here it's Rav Chanan. Okay. This Gemara, the following Gemara, is famous because it's considered one of the 6 places where the halacha is like Abaya, in the Yal Kagam. Usually we paskin in a machlekes Abaya and Rava, we paskin like Rava. Many machlekes in that's machlekes Abaya and Rava. But there's only 6 that we go like Abaya. I'm not sure if everyone holds of this, that this is one of them, but Rashi clearly says, Lechi Aymet Me'elav, which is our Gemara here on Daf Tesvav, that we paskin like Abaya. It's an easy Gemara. It's about if you didn't put the lechi there for halachic purposes, the lechi was there, the post was there just because of construction, or whatever it was, that's the way it was built. So Yitmar, the statement goes like this, Lechi Yamid Meila. A lechi that's there on its own. Not because you know, Hineni Muchanim Ziman Lakayim Eiruvin Tikkun Mavi. No, it was there because the builder put it there. Abaya Amar Havilechi, Rav Amar Lai Havilechi. Abaya says it's good. Just show you a picture, just so. Let's see. Here. Here it's a tree. There's other options. Here it's just a tree. Oh. Is that what he's referring to? He's referring to this piece over here. Piece of the wall sticking out. Bitzir Beis Efsharius. There's 2 possibilities. That's what he's showing. He's showing you both. That either the builder just left a piece of the wall sticking out. I guess the bricks stuck out. That's how it was. He didn't bother cutting them off. Or there was a tree there. A tree grew. You didn't put it there because you were trying to get a lechi. The tree grew. It sprouted out. Someone left this date pit or coconut. Whatever, and it sprouted. Over there would have been a date, I think. So it's a machlekes Abaya Rava. Abaya says it's fine. Rava says no, it's not a lechi. If I had another lechi yesterday on Friday, but it fell down. So in other words, I put a halachic lechi there. I put a lechi, but it fell down on Shabbos. So kuli alma lo pligi d'lo yavi lechi. Everyone agrees. You didn't really want that lechi, so then it doesn't work. You were clearly not relying on it, then it doesn't work. The whole question is, does it work if I did not have another lechi, and I said, I'll use this one. that yesterday we said, look, we don't have a lechi, but look at the wall. It's there's a tree, there's a wall protruding. Rabbi says, no, you didn't put it there originally for that purpose, so it doesn't work. The Gemara says it's possible. Enters our mind to say, the same way there's a machlekes, if a lechi that you didn't put there on purpose, if it works, a post, does that work? That's also machlekes regarding a wall. If there's a wall that you didn't put there on purpose, does it work? That's what we're entertaining that thought. Tashma, come and listen. If someone makes a sukkah within trees, now he's going to put his schach on whatever support they have, but a wall of a sukkah is trees. The trees are a wall. It's ksher, it's kosher. Now, the trees were just growing. You didn't put the trees there for the sukkah. The trees just happened to be there. They sprouted out and they grew, and that's considered a wall. The Gemara says, you don't have a proof. You don't have a proof to Abaya. This could have been a proof to Abaya. You see, a lechi and a mechitza is the same thing. And you see that it works. No, you planted those trees in the place where you wanted your sukkah. So you set it up that way. You planted those trees there. And now you have a wall for your sukkah. So ihachi pshita. So then why do I need a Mishnah to tell me that? That should be obvious. No. Maybe you're going to use the trees. You're not allowed to use the trees on Yom Tov. Mashmalan, that we're not concerned about that. It's considered perfectly kosher. Okay, next proof. Tashima, come and listen. If there's a tree or a fence or reeds, or there's reeds that are there, you can count them as diyumid. Diyumid is a compound word, which is diyu. Diyu means two. Duo is two. And oimid means a wall. So diyumid means it's a two wall, which means a corner wall. Now this is, if you look in the Rashi, you see what we're talking about. The pasi birois that we've learned about before. There's a well in the center, and you have corners. In the Rashi, the picture is a little bit larger than the way we were imagining. We had 13 and a third amos in the middle, or 10 amos in the middle, right? But here it looks like there's one amma in there. So whatever the case is, you can use these reeds or the trees as walls. You didn't put these there. These will just happen to be there. You see? So if a lechi and mechitza is the same thing, so Abaya is right. It works as a diyumid, as a double wall. It means a corner wall. No, you planted them there. You put them there. These reeds were there. It says, so why are you telling me? Why are you telling this to me if you put it there? That's not a chiddush. Everything is if you put it there, it's going to work. Talking over here about those reeds that were there. Those reed was put in a way where they were within 3 tvachim, one away from another. Like Abaya will ask from Rabbah. And Daf Yotes. I think it's going to be a little later. We'll get to that. That's a little later. Okay. So there is a chiddush here. We'll have to wait for it. Tashma. Ilan HaMesach HaLaretz. Let's see. Oh, Dr. Stein, I think you had this picture before. Let's see if I have it here. I don't know if I have it. There's the options. He made all the options here. Those are the reeds with his pit in the middle. Here's Ilan HaMesach HaLaretz. You have a very large tree that the leaves of the tree are going down till the ground. On all sides. He made the picture here for you to be able to see it. But it's really going down on all sides. So, carrying under that tree, you're surrounded by walls. What do you call those big trees? Those banyan trees. like
Willow trees, no?
yeah, they have the willow trees go like that, but then like Coral Gables, they have these trees,
Banyan trees, yeah.
banyan trees.
Mm.
The roots, the thing is the roots, they shoot
They
down.
drop down.
Drop down, so you get new trees growing all over the place. It could take like several acres. These trees can go on. It's considered one tree. So, so can you carry under it? Because you're really surrounded. Surrounded. So it goes like this. Ilana Mesach Alaretz. It's like leaning over to the ground on all sides. If the leaves, the foliage, is not 3 tvachim above the ground, metalflan tachta, then you can carry under that area. Well, very interesting. You didn't put the machitza there. This is how it grew. Nevertheless, you're allowed to carry. No one said, "Oh, this is the halacha of a machitza." No. So, no, you planted it with that intention that it's going to go over. Maybe you even directed it. You had that in mind when you planted this tree. If so, then you should be able to carry under this tree entirely. Why is there a limitation on this tree? Now, there's a limitation on certain things that don't have a 100% mechitza. There's a limitation on how large the area could be. For example, a large park that's larger than the Beis Hasayim. A Beis Hasayim is the area that the Mishkan was, which was a Beis is 50 by 50 amas, because I can sow grain, one saw of grain in a 50 by 50. Beis Hasayim is 100 by 50, which is the area of the Mishkan. Anything larger than that, so if it's a house, a courtyard or something, it's surrounded by a wall, then no problem. But if it's just a park and you don't live there, it wasn't planted, it wasn't made for living, so then the area is too large and the mechitzas don't work, you can't carry in it. So why over here, if you planted this tree to use it like that, so then why did you put a limitation on it that it can't be more than a Beis Hasayim? It could have even more Beis Hasayim if you planted it for usage. You wanted to use this area. Where it says the Havidir Shetashmish Alav here, no. You planted it not to use under the tree. You planted it for the shade of the people outside. Here's the issue. You didn't plant this to live under this tree. You planted it because there's a guard that walks around that he wants to be able to use the shade outside of this tree. So then it has that limitation. Okay. Tashima, come and listen. Shabbos Patel, if when Shabbos comes in, he or his food, he puts his location of where he's going to be for Shabbos on a mound, Shugavay Asara, which is 10 tvachim tall. And if it's within 4 amas, up until a Beis Hasayim, which is what we said, could be considered an area that's surrounded by walls. The same would be if it's in a pit. And it goes from 4 amas until 200, until 100 by 50 rather. The kama katsura. Let's say you had a harvest, you cut down a lot of the grain, and you left standing grain all around you. So you really have walls there. So you're surrounded by stalks of grain. And the standing stalks are surrounding you. You see, those are walls, even though you didn't put them there as walls. Walls can be there automatically. Maybe you did this on purpose. Yeah, you could have done this with the stalks, that you harvested the center, and then you could spend your Shabbos over there in the center, surrounded by walls. What about the mound in the cavity in the ground, you did that on purpose. Rather, when it comes to mechitza, everyone doesn't argue that it's considered a mechitza. Abaya and Rava hold that a partition is considered a partition even if you didn't put it there on purpose. The whole machlekes is baya lechi. Abaya letamei. Baya goes according to his reason that melechi mishum mechitza, and it's perfect. A lechi is a wall. That's why. How does a lechi work? Because it's a partition. Mechitza, so you may allow mechitza, and mechitza works. Rava letamei. Rava goes according to his reason that melechi mishum heker. That a lechi is because it's just a post to give you a sign that you can't walk past there, or that other people that look in should be able to see that you didn't pass over. A heker, something, a sign that makes you recognize that this is the limit. So that you have to do on purpose. Let's stop.